While we wait for what the next few weeks of Season 1 holds for us in Modern Warfare, there hasn't been an ample amount of communication with the community, but what we have been getting are inklings of discussion, things that we hear about a little bit from those who are talking with the community, and some of it does have some solid weight and some importance behind it, like what we'll discuss today in the way of more 6v6 maps on the way, as mentioned by art director Joel Emsley. Today I want to discuss with you guys a few things going on in the COD world like that and some upcoming arrivals, why some of them may seem weird, and what it means for the future. So that said, as we go along, let me know your thoughts. If there's any map you could have, new or returning, which map would you want to see in Modern Warfare? And if it is a new map, what would it be like? Let me know below. As well, if you are new to the channel, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare on a daily basis. But anyways, let's talk about Call of Duty. First things first, you may have caught wind of this already, but this weekend we actually have another double XP event going on. This time though, not for your weapons, but instead your actual soldier rank and rank progression. While some of you may not benefit as much of this if you're 155, those who are not, this is a perfect time to jump in and get up to that max level. I'd highly recommend it, and with the possibility, of course, new ways to show off your max rank being teased at some point in the near future, just to be safe, it's a great idea to play while you can. But anyways, you'll be able to start that double XP grind on the 10th, just in time for my birthday, so thanks Infinity Ward. And then it will last until Monday the 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, as per normal with the weekend events that we usually see in Call of Duty. So jump in while it lasts. I don't think this will be the last double XP event that we have this season. I would imagine there's at least one more towards the next couple of weeks here and as we round out Season 1, but jump in and take advantage of it while you can. But anyways, as for the big stuff that I want to talk about, 6v6 maps and what's to come, if you feel like there aren't a whole lot of maps within Modern Warfare, you're not alone. I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of players who feel that way, and for those that do think the number's pretty decent, I'm sure they could still counter with the fact that they're not their favorite ones to play on. Maps like Piccadilly, St. Petrograd, Ramaza, all playable, but in my own personal opinion, not really my favorites. I'm sure you feel the same way about that, so you're not alone in sharing that sentiment. And if that's the case, you probably want to see a couple of more added in, and ones that you may enjoy. Now, of course, while that might not be something you can necessarily ever predict, the fact that we will end up getting more 6v6 maps is of course inevitable, but as for when, that's the big question mark. But recently, Joel Emsley was tweeting about some of the stats of Modern Warfare and how it's gone so far, to which Twitter user Ghost100 tweeted requesting, "We need more 6v6 maps, smiley face," to which Joel promptly replied, "We completely hear you guys on this. Been working on it and continue as fast as we humanly can," smiley face back. So the first thing that I take away here for this one is that this is reassuring, if nothing else. Joel has recently been a beacon of hope for further communication between community and studio, and he's done it in a way that I think is actually pretty well handled. He's given real answers to questions that may not necessarily always be the outcomes that people want to hear, but if that's the case, it's a way that's logical, explains the actual developmental process and how things are handled, the mindset behind them, precise and mostly objective. And the nicer part about where his communication comes from is that from an outside perspective, it seems that if he doesn't know an answer, he's willing to admit that he doesn't know the answer instead of either ignoring it or forcing an answer that may not necessarily be the most accurate thing. That's something that I think we can all appreciate. But like we said, I think for Joel mentioning this that more are on the way is reassuring, if nothing else at all. Now, truthfully, I think this may be sooner than we think, but it's kind of weird right now where we're at within Modern Warfare up until this point, especially around launch. The big part of why it feels like there's not a lot of maps to play on is because we have so many fragmenting game modes. Modern Warfare, by simple definition of levels and how many maps are actually in the game, we actually did have a decent amount at launch and even still to this day. I think that we had 23 levels at launch, but the problem arose when you start to break down that each of those were only playable in their own designated playlists, because we had 2v2, we had 6v6, we had 10v10, we had ground war. We don't see 6v6 play on a ground war map naturally. That just wouldn't work. You'd hit time limit before you ever reach even a quarter of the score limit, and you also couldn't put 32 people on a 2v2 map. That stuff just doesn't work. So we had that natural break, which created this schism. At launch, we had 10 6v6 maps, though only 6 of them were actually different and unique maps, given that there were 4 night variations of 4 of those maps. So we also then had 4 10v10 maps, 3 if you don't count Ania Palace after it was removed. A few days into launch, it didn't play well at 10v10 at all. I don't know why it was in there to begin with. That's my own personal preference. We even played it at the reveal event 20v20, and that's what felt way better than 10v10. We had 2 ground war maps of Karst River Quarry and Tovorsk District. We ended up also having 7 2v2 maps. Now, when you break it down and look at it from that level where you have 23 maps, but all spread out across various different modes of play that don't cross over. It's a whole World War II predicament with war all over again. By literal terms, there's plenty of maps, but the player base is fragmented into modes that don't really utilize any large percentage of them at any given time. And when 2v2 has more maps off the rip than 6v6, I never really understood that. And still, to this day, we actually have 10 2v2 maps, 11 if you end up counting that double dip that Shipment is, like you technically should if you want to be thorough. There's still only 10 6v6 maps, so 2v2 still outnumbers that of the standard and where the large populace of Modern Warfare plays. So that's always where that problem has seemed way bigger than it maybe necessarily is, by simple literal definition of how many maps are in the game, but it's a problem no less. To me, the weirdest part about this, we do see that more are on the way, that Infinity Ward are definitely working on more, and truthfully, I think that's kind of a no-brainer. But the weirdest part to me is that we have a lot of maps in the game files already. We've talked about this here and detailed it in depth before on the channel, that at launch, the build of the game contained 38 maps in there already, either some completed, some necessarily just having some assets and strings linking up to that, but 38 maps between not only 2v2, not only just 6v6, not only 10v10, but also ground war. 38 maps that are relatively ready enough to be seen in game files right there out of the gate. That's something that we usually see maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 in previous years in data mined builds of the game that showcase upcoming content. Now, we've talked about plenty of times here on the channel that maps get leaked because of that, but to have 38, that was unprecedented. We'd never seen anything like that in Call of Duty history, especially right after launch. So the curious part to me is the fact that those are there in the game files. Now again, in no capacity does it mean that they're all done, but they're in the works, which begs the question of why there really still are so many that we haven't seen to this day. I get the timing things add up throughout the year, but ultimately, more maps are going to be made and added and probably already have been to this bank of upcoming maps, so those 38 that we've seen probably are even more. Probably in the 40s now, maybe even if not the 50s, just no one has data mined the game to confirm that to my knowledge. Now, in terms of when we may see newer things, newer maps come in, I'm still really banking on the fact that we're going to be seeing that 2-week interval keep up, even though that now we're technically in that 3rd week, but I'm hoping we get back to that sort of sense of air quote normalcy that we've seen with Modern Warfare thus far, where we have 4 weeks left of Modern Warfare's first season, so that could mean this week with that title update that Joe Seacott still said was coming around, maybe we see some maps there. In 2 weeks, we see with the final 2 weeks of the season, another update to add another map or 2 in, and it keeps on going like that for a refresh finally with Season 2. But it ultimately could be something that also we don't see that much more, which would be a huge bummer, but it also is kind of possible because if you think about it, it's curious how it's all played out so far. We've already used up a lot of the marketing material that we've seen. The only stuff that remains is I think maybe one Spec Ops mission and then also a couple of the and more in the 2v2 section and also the Spec Ops section as well of that promo key art for Season 1, that sort of roadmap that we've talked about for quite some time. But really, if that's the case, that if we've seen a large majority of what's coming and there's not all that much left, right now it kind of looks like it would resemble what was previously a DLC pack for the season. So we ended up seeing 4 maps, a ground war map by comparison, and then some Spec Ops stuff as that 3rd mode content. So it might look like that. I feel like though with that many maps still in the game files, it would default to being more, and especially if we follow that 2-week interval thing. We're not going to see the potential of this week offering just a Spec Ops mission and then the next update and potentially 2 weeks offering just one gunfight map. I don't think that stuff would happen, so I don't think that we're going to overall shape what a DLC pack would be per season, which ultimately, if there is rumored to be total of 6 seasons, we would still get more content in terms of overall. I don't know, I'm just trying to make sense of this entire thing and the timing of how it would all work. But that said, that's kind of where I'm at here with this one. I am liking the communication here, at least to say there's more on the way. The timing's still a little bit up in the air. I think that honestly, if I were to give an educated guess, I'm still sticking with my guns of it would be later this week if we end up getting that title update that Joe Seacott mentioned, and hopefully that's also when we may end up seeing custom classes, because Joe Seacott said they were looking to launch that sometime in January. So it could be either this next title update or the one after that, again, if we follow that 2-week interval in which content seemingly is dispersed, minus, again, this little asterisk of the 3-week mark. But we'll have to wait and see here with that one. But all in all, that's where we're at here with this. Just wanted to have a casual conversation with you guys and keep you in the loop for what you may have missed in terms of that discussion from developer and also community. So let me know your thoughts down there in the comment section down below. Again, what map would you like to see return? If none, what would your map ideally look like? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare, updates, news, information, tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered here on the channel. So hit the subscribe button if you guys are interested in any of it. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected from outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.